Moving along here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Priority Auto Sports Radio 94.1, brought to you by Larry King Law with the coach Ed Young. I'm Matt Hatfield. We are on remote from the VHSL State Basketball Tournament at VCU, the Siegel Center in Richmond, calling the games for the NFHS Network. You can watch them live, archived, including a couple of the championship games later on today. Ed, we'll get to that in a second, including the local teams involved, and you'll hear from Stephon Welsh of Woodside, also Jack Castleberry, assistant coach at Fairleigh Dickinson now. But let's talk a little bit of NCAA basketball. Big news this week, you being a veteran coach of 30-plus years, getting that 500th win early this season. I'm sure this one took you by some surprise, maybe not. Jim Boeheim, he is done as the head basketball coach of Syracuse after losing to Wake Forest in the ACC tournament. Sort of an interesting press conference where he was not saying he was done, but he insinuated he was done, and it later came out that he was done as the coach. Sort of the old guard, if you will, with Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski and now Boeheim. They're all departing from the sport. And, I mean, when you think Syracuse, you think Jim Boeheim. He's been an institution there in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and you're looking at, was it last year, Jay Wright, Villanova, resigned suddenly.
He's a young guy compared to them.
Yeah, correct, compared to them. So a lot of the old guard is making a step down. I didn't think Boeheim had that many more years left in him. I think he wants to, just walk away. 47 years in one place. Plus, he was a guard. He played there, too. So, it's just what it is. They're not going to last forever. It's a stressful job. Those guys were very successful. They were able to stay in one place so long. And that's the only way you're going to do it. You have to, A, win. B, you got to recruit well to win. And then you've got to not only be among the best teams, but you got to get in the NCAA tournament. And depending on your lineage as to how good you really are, you got to win some games to stay around now. Pressure's immense. Now, I know some of those guys, ACC, SEC, make big money. And hey, if I can make big money, I know I got to win too, but still the pressure's unbelievable.
And there are constant coaching changes with Mike Anderson getting the boot at St. John's, Josh Pastner out at Georgia Tech, Patrick Ewing done at Georgetown, so no more Patrick Ewing. Who's going where? You've heard some names like Rick Pitino, he of Iona, connected with the Hoyas first, and now the Red Storm of St. John's, where it feels like it's a more logical fit for him. I've always thought Pitino, two spots for him, either St. John's or South Florida. He's always had that connection, the Outback and the folks under the Sunshine State. Maybe that would be a place for him, but in New York, he wants to get back to a big-level job. I think it's going to happen for him at some point. And there are just so many changes everywhere you turn. We know about the news of Mark Adams resigning at Texas Tech. It came shortly after the news that he made some insensitive remarks that were racially, insensitive there. And Adrian Autry is going to take over at Syracuse, so we know who is going to fill the shoes of Jim Boeheim, though it's hard to fill those shoes. But so many openings everywhere you turn, and we don't know who's going to take Mike Bray's place at Notre Dame either.
And we don't even know if Mike Bray's really done. He said he was stepping away from Notre Dame. I think the word retirement was used. Now the rumor is he would be a great fit for Georgetown because he is originally from that area. Now, does Mike want to continue doing it? Is he burnt out? Was his mindset, hey, I'm done? He did say, though, I did see in a write-up somewhere that he would be interesting maybe to continue coaching, but it'd have to be the exact right spot. And Georgetown's going to need some work to get some players in there. Patrick Ewing should have never been brought as a head coach. If he's going to coach again, it was in the NBA. He was tailor-made for NBA, not for high school. That was college. That was a disaster from the minute it happened.
A lot more smaller school jobs. Bowling Green's open. Austin Peay. Nate James is out. Army. American. Mike Brennan no longer the coach there. We've heard Jason Williford's name, an assistant. Former GW coach Jamion Christian mentioned as a possibility there. Nate Davis out at Bucknell, who used to be the coach at Randolph-Macon. Brian Bird didn't last long at Georgia Southern, a Sunbelt rival of Old Dominion. So we just keep all these coaching jobs an eye peeled on so many of them across the landscape. Now, since it is almost tournament time and these conference tournaments are finishing up across the Pac-12, the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, some of your bigger schools. There were bids punched earlier, and we'll hear from Jack Castleberry about Fairleigh Dickinson going dancing despite not winning its conference tournament because Merrimack is ineligible for it. Give me your thought. Is there a surprise team out there? Because a lot of the chalk people say the one seeds are going to be some combination. Houston, Alabama, Kansas, Purdue, maybe a UCLA squeezes in there if they win the Pac-12 tournament to go with the regular season title despite having that injury to their defensive stopper. I don't know that all the ones are going to get there, but there's always a Cinderella, a double-digit seed that makes a run to like the Sweet 16. My team is a team I think you snickered at a couple years ago, Oral Roberts. Watch out for Oral Roberts.
Yeah, you like to pull out those teams that we don't really hear much about, don't really see on TV a whole lot. This year, you know what? I'm changing up. I'm sticking with the teams you hear or have heard. I think I like UCLA. I always have liked them. And, somebody like in Arizona, of course, a lot of people like Houston, they were bouncing back and forth between number one and down a little bit this year. Team I'm not going to go far. Watch that they will. Purdue. I just think they're made out of glass. I don't see that team going deep. But I think this is a year when you do the brackets, I know people say it's boring, go chalk, because it's going to be hard to pick those surprise teams, even though there's a whole lot of teams that have a chance to win it. In reality, you're looking at probably 10, maybe 5, 10 teams that can win it.
So that's the advice from Ed Young, which if you follow our football picks, just do the opposite. That means there's going to be all kinds of crazy, zany upsets and comebacks galore. So don't take all the one seeds when you fill out your bracket. Go take someone off the radar screen. Maybe my guy like Miami, Jim Larinaga and the Canes, or take a Creighton, or take anybody that Texas A&M. How about Buzz Williams? He's doing a good job there. And I called that last week over Bama, by the way. You and Rister, I think, took the Tide. I took the Aggies to get it done, and they came through for me. So they're a dark horse that might make an Elite 8, Sweet 16 type of push.
It could be. Like I said, it's a year where you had teams that blew 20-point leads in the second half more often than once. So I'm telling you, it is really, really different. There's no real – everybody consensus is there's no real power team or two. How about North Carolina? Looks like right now as we speak,
they're done.
Won't even be in the tournament. And Duke, who a lot of people are a little worried about with Krzyzewski leaving, look like they're going to be pretty good.
Getting healthy, getting lively back is a big deal for them. And NIT for UNC. And NIT means not in the tournament for them. As we go back to the high school hoops on this state championship Saturday here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Priority Auto Sports Radio 94.1. The Saturday matchups of all the local teams, Ed, will start in Class 5. Princess Anne girls, LC Bird girls. Expectation is Darnell Dozier is going to add to those rings as he puts them on his fingers and his toes, and then he's going to run on her fingers and toes to put them on. Sakaya Stevenson, you watched him against Norview. She is lethal. Ole Miss commit. Probably needs some step-up scoring to go with her, but LC Bird has played them before. They won't be intimidated. However, I'm not sure they have everything you need to get it done in 32 minutes against a team that brings the pressure defense.
Well, we talk state tournament. Darnell Dozier usually makes a reservation for here. He's got 11 rings, more rings than
I think it's like 12 or 13 at this point. He's going to have 20 by the time we're done doing this show. Maybe he'll have 25 by the time we're doing this show.
I think it is. The correct number, I think, is 11. He has more. He doesn't have enough place to put the rings on. Somebody like him over 700 wins, I can't go against them. They'll lose if they lose. Great statement to make, but I really can't go against them. Now, yeah, LC Bird is very, very good, but I think Darnell Dozier, I think those young ladies have been tested enough. They'll find a way to win that.
You said they lose if they lose? I don't even want you to begin explaining that to me.
You don't pick a legend to lose until they lose. That's what I say.
Okay, fair enough. And you said 11. I'm showing 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm showing 12. I think you shorted him a ring. He's going to tell you about it, too, later on. He probably won't come on because of that, so shame on you.
So many rings, you can't keep up with them all to begin with.
How about Stephon Welsh trying to get his third ring? He won 2 as a player. You'll hear from him coming up here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk, taking on Patrick Henry of Roanoke. Remember the name Abu Yarma? He's very good. Sidney Webb, who played some quarterback football team, transferred in from Northside, by the way, for PH Roanoke, and they have a 3-point marksman in Brooks Deary. Patrick Henry Roanoke gets to this stage of the tournament, and I think some people wonder about just how good they really are. Woodside has been tested out of the tough PD. They've played teams like Gonzaga, not Gonzaga with Drew Timme and the school that Chet Holmgren went to, but Gonzaga, the high school, the private school out of Washington, D.C. But Patrick Henry is here for a reason. They have won 29 games out of 31 for a reason. The only 2 losses and blemishes coming to William Fleming. I don't think this is an easy game for Woodside. I think they can make an easy game, but this might be tougher than many are bargaining for and expecting.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Woodside's definitely the better talented team, the little bit more physical team. I think Patrick Henry comes in with some talent, very high basketball IQ. They really take care of the basketball. They run their offense a little bit longer than what Woodside does. Yes, Woodside has played a fantastic schedule, obviously, in the Peninsula District, and they played some really, really tough out-of-district opponents, somewhat on a national level too. But Patrick Henry has always played a tough schedule also. I'm going to lean towards the talented Woodside team. I know it's their first time here, but I'm going to lean a little bit towards them, but won't be surprised if Patrick Henry pulls it out. They're that good also.
You figure the star for PA and Zakiah Stevenson going to Ole Miss has to play great for PA to win, most likely. Does Trevor Smith, the Richmond signee, have to play great for Woodside? He had that huge fourth quarter in their win over previously unbeaten Menchfield in the region semis at the Scope. Or do they have so many other weapons, 8 or 9 guys that have led them in scoring, that it's not paramount or an absolute necessity that he has 15, 20, 25 points or a bunch of assists and really dominates the game?
No, I don't think you have to rely on the one person. I think Woodside has enough firepower throughout at least their starting five. And they do get decent contribution off the bench. But I will warn Woodside this. Do not go into periods where you find it very hard to score and then your defense gets a little bit edgy because Patrick Henry will pick you apart. And we've seen that, i.e. the Hatfield and Patriot game. Both teams are great shooting teams. Patriot just never got off the bat, went into stretches where they really couldn't score it, had a heck of a time trying to catch up and take the lead. Eventually, they end up losing.
Class 2 girls, real quickly, Ed. Central Wise, led by Robin Dotson, 700-plus wins. I think it's 7 state titles for him. He's got his team back in the championship after outlasting 6 meetings with Gate City, winning 4 of those, including the game in the state semis to get them to the title round. And here they are playing Clark County. Central Wise at 25-6, Clark at 24-5. Having beaten John Marshall girls, not boys now, in overtime. I know you were thoroughly impressed last year with Emma McCamus as a freshman, setting a VHSL record for points in a season for a freshman girl, and Robin Dotson's a wizard. He's one of the best out there. They came from a long ways down to beat Luray. I feel like it's going to be another title for Wise.
Yeah, I'm not going against Robin. I mean, again, 700 wins. He's had his teams there who have those girls prepped and ready to go. I would think that we'll go with Central Wise. But, again, not a blowout. I still think it'll be a close game.
And news bulletin, ladies and gentlemen, the coach, Ed Young, who has not missed a state championship pick yet here on his selections, he is going to take Rick Corman, another veteran coach, because he doesn't go against Dozier, he doesn't go against Dotson. He's not going to go against guys with 700-plus wins since he's trying to get there, even 600 where Billy Pope is. He's only got 502. That's all he's got is just 502, folks. He's going to take Cormany, who's up to like 759, I think it is now, and the Bobcats to avenge that 82-43 loss to John Marshall from a season ago. Is that correct?
Absolutely not, because they're playing a team called John Marshall. And if anybody's seen John Marshall play, 100 points a game they're averaging, a margin of victories like 30 points a game. Nah, I'm sorry, Rick. You're going to be the one legend I can't go again. I'm going to go with. I'm going to have to go against you, and I'm going with John Marshall. And another pretty doggone good coach in Ty White.
The Jersey Mike's Subs National Coach of the Year. We can say that even though they don't sponsor our show because he got a National Coach of the Year honor. And I think all the Richmond dignitaries were shaking hands, kissing babies, and throwing a party for him the other day at the Siegel Center. But they're winning by more than 30 points per game. They won their state semifinal game 112-49. All Division I starters in the starting lineup in terms of offers or commits, led by Dennis Parker Jr., the NC State signee. And oh, by the way, they beat Strasburg 98-27 in the state quarters. Radford had to come from 10 down to get to overtime and beat Floyd County in its state semifinal. So it's going to be an uphill climb for sure, you would think. I say hold the ball, Rick. Get that tip or get down 2-0, 3-0. Hold the ball.
Yeah, you just can't wait to see a team do it. It's awful tough to do it. You got to be somewhat used to being able to do it. You got to be able to have the right people that can handle without getting pressurized on the floor, because you're talking about trying to hold it the whole game, not the last minute or two of a game with a short lead. It's going to be tough. Plus, you got to hope John Marshall doesn't want to have to go play you. They're long and lanky out front. They're going to probably want to, if you would do that, they're probably going to run a 1-3-1 trap. Definitely going to double team you, try to speed up the game.
Cape Henry grad and Virginia Beach native Jack Castleberry of Fairleigh Dickinson coming up in a bit. But next on the show, it's Woodside head basketball coach Stephon Welsh going for a state title with the Wolverines. It's coming your way on 757 Saturday Sports Talk on Priority Auto Sports Radio 94.1.